First off, welcome and welcome back to my channel. Timestamps are in the description box below because I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction. I do owe people who've been following the channel a little bit of a recap on what's been going on, how are the plants that I first covered in the series doing, along with I've had questions about the import plants that I had from overseas. They had died completely back and I had showed their progress in regrowing sort of just from the rhizome. So I do want to update everyone on that first. So again, timestamps are in the description box below. Please feel free to skip ahead. So I finally have some more time to get back to tending to my struggling Calathea collection. I sort of misjudged some projects at work and the time requirements, so this series has really been pushed out. And in that time though, there has been some updates on the plants that I wanted to share with you and how they're doing. So my Makoyana and then my Zebrina. If you're new to the series, then what I'm actually doing here is I'm going plant by plant through my Calathea collection, which got pretty devastated for a number of reasons, and I'm making repairs, restoring plants, and bringing everyone along with me, and hopefully it is somewhat beneficial or at least entertaining to see what's going on with my collection. So here's a quick look at those Calathea that I imported from overseas. That would be a Vandenheckii, a silver plate, and a Cynthia. Now, the silver plate and the Cynthia were on my wish list for probably 4 or 5 years, and I never even mentioned it because these plants just didn't seem to be being made anywhere. I couldn't find any nurseries that had them. There was just no hint of where I could get one, so I didn't even mention either of these plants on my channel. And then all of a sudden, I saw a seller from overseas who had both, and I needed to replace a Vandenheckii, so I went ahead, I bought them. They arrived looking really beautiful. However, they did go into shock. They died completely back to the soil. I think the silver plate kept a leaf or two, but the Vandenheckii and the Cynthia completely died back. And so what I ended up doing was just regrowing them from the rhizome. This is how they look today. They're looking really beautiful. I'm hoping summer brings more and more vigorous growth. The Vandenheckii has a new piece of growth coming in. The silver plate is really filled out. And the Cynthia, it was a little bit slower, but it's filling out. Now, what I really love about the Cynthia right now, you see that margin is just a vivid sort of fuchsia color. This will be replaced as it matures with a opaque, thick white margin. Not kind of a thinner, not like a Marion, not a Shine Star, but a very opaque white margin. And that's what I was looking for in the Cynthia. So I can't wait to see this plant progress. And I would say too, if you experience this and you have your Calathea completely die back when they get, when they ship to you, or even if they just go through some type of struggle, I would say keep watering the plant somewhat regularly and see if you can coax any new growth out of it. Those rhizomes can definitely withstand and live past losing the kind of the surface plant. They can definitely regenerate growth. So if you can keep those rhizomes healthy, and that's not where the problem with the Calathea lies, you might be able to just completely regrow the plant from scratch. It's something that you hear a lot about online in different forums, but I think it's something that we rarely see on YouTube. And so I definitely want to share this with everyone. Okay, so let's get to the first two plants that I covered in the series. The first is my Calathea Makoyana. It's looking pretty good. It had like some pretty serious issues with losing soil and being root bound, and it died half back. Now I repotted it. I am rethinking the terracotta. I'm likely not moving forward with replanting all of my plants into terracotta and my Calathea, but I will say that it's looking happy. It just, the vigorous growth that it had the first year I had it, it's not bounced back with that. And I actually think it's going to take a summer to recover the fact that it went so long without having adequate amounts of soil in the pot with it. And it is happy enough though to put out a flower, put some flowers out. So I'm happy with that. I'm happy that it seems to be acclimating, but I don't expect really vigorous growth. But I hope by next year that I'm seeing, I have to tell you, the Makoyana, when I had it and I'd really gotten into a really beautiful stage, it was just one of the most stunning plants in my collection, and I can't wait for it to really get back to that. The second plant in my series was my Calathea Zebrina, and I ended that video saying, I'm pretty sure I've killed this plant. This was a nightmare. It was a plant that I had it was a baby. It was like a couple of inches tall. I grew it into a mature plant, and I had some some false starts with it. It ended up growing into maturity and getting mature leaves, and then the base of the plant, the foundation, could not support this really large new growth. And so what I ended up doing is just dealing with a plant that was falling over and not able to hold itself up. So I repotted it, I staked it, was pretty confident I had likely killed it. One of where the rhizomes of growth was coming from, it did completely die back to the soil, but it's put out two new leaves since. And the other one died back pretty considerably, but it's doing okay. And it's got a lot of new growth coming up from the center of the plant. I was able to remove it from the stake. The stakes are still there, but they're no longer connected to the plant. And it's recovering. Fingers crossed that it continues to recover and that it continues to heal and that I don't have these problems. I will say thank you to everybody who left me recommendations, shared their experiences with me in the comments on that video. I don't know that I'm out of the woods with that plant yet, and so I very well may need to go back and try some other things with it. But I want to again thank you, because those comments help not only me but other people who are coming to the channel trying to figure out what's wrong with their Calathea. So thank you for sharing all of your wisdom and experience. So we're 2 plants in, and overall I would say that this experience has not been perfect, but I'm pretty happy. I haven't killed either of the plants, so let's move on. Today we are going to talk and look at and attempt to heal my Calathea Medallion version 2. So my Medallion version 2, I got it pretty small and it grew into a large, like a vigorous growth pattern started on this plant. It was huge. It got very large within a year, and it was outgrowing the space that it was in, and I knew that I needed to repot it, and I was like, well, this is one of the plants in my collection that isn't struggling. I can really wait. I can put it on the back burner and I'll repot it in summer and it'll be fine. Well, a couple of months ago, it got a spider mite infestation and it started to have some dieback that reminded me of the Makoyana, and I thought, oh no, maybe it's kind of really outgrown the pot that it's in, and now it's got spider mites. So what ends up happening for me with a spider mite infestation, one of the first signs for me, and what I really notice is that the nyctinastic movement and the heliotropic movement of the leaves, it stops. So the plant stops, quote unquote, praying, right? These are part of a larger group of plants known as prayer plants, and they tend to raise their leaves up at night, and then during the day they let them back down. They're heliotropic, meaning that they can move and articulate the leaf itself to face and get maximum amounts of light. And remember, it's really helpful for a plant like the Calathea that grows on the bottom of under the tree canopy of the rainforest. So it's got really usually opaque backs to the leaf. Most of the ones that I tend to love have that really deep purple, sort of aubergine, sort of really beautiful pinkish, reddish, violet backing, and that really helps it kind of trap light. It's not light just going through. It kind of attracts that light and it holds it, and it gives the plant, even though it's on the forest floor, enough light. That backing is also really helpful in finding out when you have spider mites, because you will immediately start to see white specks. You might see some of them move and realize, oh, okay, here's some pest. So I did treat the plant. I'm pretty confident that I got rid of the spider mites on it for now. However, the leaves that are remaining that haven't dried completely up, these leaves can no longer be articulated by the plant. They can't rise up. They're flat against the pot, and they also, the heliotropic movement, they're not able to shift themselves pretty much at all anymore. The plant can barely move these leaves. So I think I'm gonna cut away these dead leaves that already dried up. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of the remaining ones that I know were really heavily infested with spider mites, and I'm gonna look at the roots of the plant. And so when I do start looking at the roots of the plant, what I notice is that they're a little bit, I think that if I rinsed them, they would come out the right color. But right now it looks like they're pretty, the color is being saturated, I think, by this soil. The soil, I did water this recently, so I do think that maybe, but I'm checking, I'm feeling. I want to make sure I don't feel root rot, because that could definitely be a culprit. And I don't think it's root rot, and I don't want to disturb the roots on the plant any more than I have to. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pot this plant up into the next size pot. I'm going to go ahead and put the soil around the existing root ball, and I'm not going to fuss with it. I'm not going to break these roots up. I'm not going to get rid of the old soil. I'm just going to give it some fresh soil so that the roots will be able to actually sort of grow out into the new soil. The new soil is going to have, new nutrients, things that haven't been, washed away over time. So that's going to be really beneficial as well. And you can see these were pretty heavily infested leaves. There's a lot of speckling here on the back. Those are dead spider mites. I'm looking at them. They don't appear to be alive anymore, but it's going to be something that I'm going to have to treat again after this repot, and probably relatively soon. I'm probably going to be able to give the plant about a week after this repot and just kind of let it sort of settle in and acclimate to its new pot. And then I'm going to have to treat it again with neem oil. And definitely about prevention this summer. I've got enough problems in my Calathea collection. I do not need another giant outbreak. I actually already have another Calathea that have some spider mite issues going on right now that I need to treat next. So I don't need more headaches. So with all of that dead foliage gone, with all of the kind of sort of not dead but affected foliage gone as well, the plant looks much healthier. It already looks happier to me, and that is me imposing my own feelings on the plant, but still it looks better, and I think that it's going to get better. I'm really hoping that it can continue this vigorous growth. As you can see, it's opening new growth right now. The growth hadn't stopped. It's not necessarily what I would say, it's not necessarily perfect. One of the things that I'm hoping is that that's what was causing a lot of the problems, not root rot, that I'm not going to have a plant that I'm now going to see damage on the leaves that has to do with root rot. I will also say that when plants start losing soil due to just the root system growing in, you really do then have a problem with watering, because what you would normally do for the watering doesn't work. The soil's not there, it's not retaining water, there's less of the soil, and so keeping the plant adequately hydrated without giving it too much water or not enough, it gets much more difficult. I really have a lot of Calatheas to go this summer, so it's probably going to be busy. I will say that my schedule is going to allow for more regular uploads, which is great, so I should be able to see you pretty regularly, barring any unforeseen circumstances. So until next time, be well and take care.